Welcome back, everyone. It's DestinysJesus. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down Veno and Queasy to give you guys a guide for FNCS coming up very shortly. As you can see here, these guys are pretty much by far the best duo on the planet. They absolutely dominated every single tournament so far this season. They're second place in FNCS Invitational. They both won FNCS last year as well. Absolutely ridiculous how good they are. I think Queasy is arguably the best IGL ever in Fortnite, and Veno is, of course, the best fragger. You guys should know this. He has literally the best stats out of anybody in the past, I think, 3 FNCSs in a row, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to be showing you guys exactly what they do throughout early, mid-game, and of course a whole lot of stuff for endgame and playing height and taking height, so you guys can dominate your FNCS lobbies, and also if you need to qualify for FNCS still, it's a really useful guide for you guys. This is a really example of how to fight with your duo. Act more of a support player. A lot of times people think that you need to fight together when it comes to duo fighting, but look what Queasy does here. He goes ahead and hops on the wall horizontally, and he's not doing a 180-degree pinch from Veno here. They're not on the other side of the box where it's quite easy to isolate them. Veno instead is hopping on, trying to do a wide edit from a distance away here with an SMG, and then Queasy is taking edits on the back, replacing, and just simply sneaking in. So while this player is trying to deal with Veno going from this side, he gets shot in the back for a big amount of damage by Veno. And Queasy's also aware that he shouldn't be overcommitting in here. He knows it's still all of their edits. He's keeping his distance. He's just spraying, trying to break walls and get timing shots on them. And then while Veno gets hit to low HP, you can see he immediately keeps up the pressure, which is really important. You don't want to let the fight tempo change, right? You don't want to let the other team be able to heal up and then go for height, or heal up and then try to make a sneak play. You want to keep up the pressure and keep up the knowledge of where you know these players are. So he immediately hops on the wall right here, replaces the cone, has his nice ramp peak around this wall, gets the floor replaced, and while he's doing this, he's basically just baiting this guy out to make an edit and go for a trade shot, which would favor him in this case, because of course he's got Veno to go in and punish that trade. Now these players go ahead and double hammer up. Queasy immediately capitalizes on this by retaking high ground off them, does a damage trade again there, and you're going to see in a second, as this fight gets chopped out, Veno has now swapped into acting more of a supportive role. He's spraying up builds for Queasy. Queasy's now being sort of the main fragger type role in these type of fights. He hops down here on the wall. Nice max to start off the fight. And again, very confident in his aim. Outchanges this guy with attack. And these guys get double hammers. And now, of course, when you've got double hammers, you probably shouldn't be keying too much. You should probably just be trying to play a solid endgame and only get free keying opportunities when they're presented to you. Later on in the game, you can see Veno and Queasy get another fight here, and take a look at how they set up this pinch. So first of all, Veno goes ahead and uses the FAMAS from the front. The FAMAS is absolutely unreal. If you get a blue and above one, it does an insane amount of damage, as you can see here. Absolutely beams Malabuka as he peeks him. And the reason they push this straight away, even though you're thinking, oh, it's Malabuka, he's have Thomas HD right next to him, is they only heard one hammer coming out of Storm. Whenever you see somebody just single hammer rotating, it's normally a pretty free key. So you're going to see Veno goes up here and he goes towards the right hand side. Queasy hammers and goes to his left, gets this crack, and now immediately Malabuka is in a 1-by-1, no space available to him. They pinch so quickly, they're both going from different sides. Malabuka goes straight down, and Veno's just left emoting, and these guys get now insanely stacked going to the rest of the game. This right here might be one of the smartest things I've ever seen in Fortnite. So this duo pushes in, they knock Veno out the air, and they're instantly going to W-key the solo Queasy left over. And Queasy doesn't have enough time here to res. Take a look at what he does. He makes a whole load of space, hides Veno's body, and stops moving and stops making noise. He's acting like he's rezzing here, and he's going to go ahead and waste his splashes. Take a look at this. He builds a floor, acting like he's rezzed, and uses 4 splashes for no reason on the floor, just pretending like he's rezzed Veno. And what does the duo do? Instantly, they get terrified of fighting a 2v2 versus Veno and Queasy, now that they're full HP, and they just start running away and disengaging. This roughly 15 seconds of gameplay shows why Veno and Queasy are the best duo in the world. It's not just because Queasy is the best IGL or Veno is the best fragger, it's the fact that both of them are capable of doing both roles independently and making correct calls. You can see here, Veno, who's normally typically the fragger, goes ahead and scouts the rotate while Queasy's looking backside, while Queasy's not having any information about the rotate. He plans everything out, he comms it to his teammate, he goes towards front side, right? Now, he does a really good job of tarping, layering up, and he's most importantly put them on edge of zone, which means they're less likely to get interrupted by people hammering them out. And immediately, as they get into this good position here, they go ahead and Queasy whacks on a free edit using that Serbian ping. He's going to turn around and they go straight onto this wall opportunity of a team that is boxed up popping a mini. always go for refreshes on teams that are trying to pop minis. It's basically a free kill at this point. One thing that you guys need to get better at doing is when you come into the end of zone, is just to get more information. Information is the most key thing in Fortnite. So you can take a look at what Veno is doing when these guys are in the end of second moving here, going into third moving. First of all, he's looking at height. He's trying to figure out what skin is it on height. Is it a duo on height? Is it a solo on height? He's just trying to get this information, and he sees two people building up on height. So he calls, okay, we can't go for height right now. Next up, he's taking a look at threats nearby and also possible refreshes nearby. He spots this team building a metal below them. It's quite obviously a duo, so he goes ahead and is very careful of his floors here. He's holding it in case of the spray down. He's aware of that. While he's doing this, Queasy is doing the same thing. He's hopping in his cone to scout height and to scout potential refreshes. And he spots one straight away. He spots a solo building wood on second height. Immediately calls, and most importantly, he leaves this floor open right here. He goes ahead, builds all around him, phases the stair in this way, and then as iDrop is panicked, he's getting replaced from below. He's obviously going to edit out the box, and because of that stair, basically forces him to one direction, and he gets edited straight down into Queasy and Veno's box. And now you can see their game completely changes. Instantly, they go to 1,000+ mats between them, and it means that they can potentially go for height because of all that information they've been gathering. So many people, they just get into the end of zone, and they're just waiting for zone shot. You have to be more proactive during an end game if you want to do well. And also try to make sure you look at your forecast to figure out what is going to happen next, and you can pre-plan for that as well. So now as we get into third moving here, you're going to see the power of all this information these two have been gathering throughout the entire game. Veno scouts out height again, doesn't quite see the skins yet, but he sees the fact that there's two separate wood tops. That means that both players are likely under 500 mats each, probably less, and they're also going ahead and playing a split idea. So these guys are going to go ahead and try to isolate one of the solos on height. Ideally the guy who's a little bit lower down compared to the guy that's playing ultimate back here. Veno does this, he goes up, he spots the same skin as earlier, right? So he knows that these guys have been in height for the entirety of second moving, which costs a lot of mats, and they're of course now running out of mats. Gets a nice little pump right there, and you're going to see what Queasy does. Queasy goes ahead and builds up from backside, gets more damage on both of these players right here. Veno hammers up from the backside, and while this might seem a little bit bad from Queasy, right? He's taking a bit of a weird angle for the pump. He hits his shot, however, which is key. Queasy's basically acting as somewhat kind of a bait, right? He is going up, intentionally taking some damage. He's of course not letting himself die. He's just intentionally doing a damage trade. So now Veno, who is obviously insanely good at winning these sort of height situations, is able to get this knock in. And of course, you guys know what's going to happen. It's a 2v1 on height. We don't really need to watch how they're going to take it. They're just going to go ahead and force the other player down, which has already happened. No way you can hold height versus Queasy and Veno as a solo. These guys have height established. And let's take a look at how they play it in other games, as well as how they close out this game. This is another really good example of a height take that you guys can do, as well as how these guys hold height in the current meta. So they just got a refresh on mid ground. Veno goes ahead and sneaks up from backside. And while he's doing this and sneaking up behind the tarp, right, you can see these guys are established to second height. Queasy's going to go ahead and do an open edit, make it very obvious what he's doing, spray out the ultimate height guy, which is going to force, obviously, the ultimate height guy down to drop. And then also the player who's tarping front side to have to turn his attention to Queasy. And while Veno's doing this, he's got a couple of different options. He can either try to shoot this guy as he's falling or try to piece him up, or he can go ahead and try to fight the front side guy. He decides to get a chip tag on this guy, piece him up completely, and now Queasy's gone ahead and hammered up, as you can see. He's now up on height. And very importantly here is these guys don't commit to holding it from backside here. Because they've been fighting around on backside of height, they go ahead and realize, okay, let's just go ahead and hammer front side, which is exactly what they do here. In a second, they realize everything's getting chopped out. The team that we just took height from are going to be hammering down. They're going to be disconnecting our builds. Let's just re-establish our front side. It's also very good if you have forecasts at this point in time to realize where next zone is playing. So they go ahead and connect to second height. They both build up from separate angles here. And now because they're on different angles, they can just basically play height completely for free. And take a look at the start that Queasy does. It's not just a single build tarp, as you can see here, that might look a bit easy to chop out. It's the fact that he's playing away from the people on second height. He's not staying directly above these players here, right? He's staying away from them, so he's got visibility of other people. When people hammer up, he can simply not get broken out because he's away from them. And of course, now this other team that might be trying to go up for height, if they are to hammer up and try to go for it, because of the fact these guys are double connected, it's basically impossible for them to chop out height unless they really commit to just chopping it out, which obviously Veno, who's perfectly sneaking on backside of Storm, is going to be aware of. One thing that they do as soon as they're established up on height is they go ahead and are very aggro at forcing solos on second height either down or into dying, right? So you can see here, they both hop off high ground, which might seem very, very risky, but they realize they need a refresh. You don't just want to keep on playing height with only wood and only cypher mats. That just means that you're very vulnerable for later on. So they immediately go ahead, both hop on the wall with a pre-edit, both double pump the solo, and now as you can see, they get a big refresh from that, and they're able to continue playing height. And Veno is still extremely aggro. It's not always the time that they're going ahead and dropping down solo. A lot of times Veno's doing things like this, where he's just running around in Storm, trying to get builds. He's going ahead and dropping them to Queasy in case he goes down while he's being a little bit more aggro. And he's also doing plays just like this one, where he is fighting people, dropping down, chasing people, and he's just so confident at doing this. And if anything bad happens, like right there, he gets caught in someone's piece, he's able to just hammer up straight to Queasy, who is sitting up here playing ultimate height, spraying, using all of his SMG ammo. Whenever you're up on height in duos, don't save your ammo for the next game. Just spray constantly, especially if you're on ultimates. Now, how do Veno and Queasy close out these final zone 2v2s? You have to watch a little bit earlier to see what they do. But first of all, it relies on Veno being very over aggro and trying to get kills. And the reason he's going for these kills is, of course, for points, but it's more so for the fact that he doesn't want to let the low ground team, in this case, for this final 2v2, he doesn't want to let this team be running around on low ground with like 4 bodies worth full of siphon and maybe 500 mats between them. Instead, he wants it to be a lot more even on mats, which of course now is going to be an advantage towards height. Of course, height, you don't have to build as much, you can spray down. Height has the advantage in these cases. But of course, there is still some counterplay that low ground can do, which I know what you guys are thinking. How do you stop them hammering up and just aim dueling you? And it's exactly this. Wait for this sound cue right there. Wait for that sound cue with the hammer and hold your floors. It completely prevents people from going up if you hold your floors properly, as you can see. Now these other players are forced into tanking Storm. Maybe the hammer sends them off out into Storm and they take a load of ticks, right? And you have a much easier job now where you're sitting up on height. You've got more mats than low ground of actually winning this. You can see Veno goes down, wins this 1v1 versus the other player with no mats. Queasy gets sent into Storm and plays this properly. He just plays this angle back in Storm to heal up. And of course, the last player who tried to get up with a hammer and got blocked off, he's now being sent out into Storm. He has to come back and he dies on his way back in.